What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the garage. Welcome to what is bound to be an exciting, riveting, action-packed episode on the Hot Rod Shop Truck project. No, not really. Let me explain. So no matter what your project is, whether it's a rat rod, hot rod, muscle car, muscle truck, resto mod, full restoration, whatever your project is, they all seem to be broken down into basically 3 different layers. So you got your layer 1, your tier 1 items. Those are the items that really identify and define your project. They're your big ticket items. They're your engine, your transmission, your suspension, things like that. Things that really get all the attention, get all the views, and like I said, really identify and define what your project is gonna be. Then you got your level 2 items, your tier 2. And those are basically, I don't know, your supporting cast. They're the items that, while not as visible or not as glamorous as your level 1 items, they're the items that if they're not done and not done correctly, then your tier 1 items or your layer 1 items don't function. They're the things like, your electrical, your cooling, your accessories, your brackets, things like that. Things that, while not as visible, they don't really get the attention. But without those, your tier 1 items don't work. So your layer 3 items are those items that don't affect the function of your project. Whether it be carpeting your interior, or like I've been building this center console. Are they important? Are they gonna affect the function of my project? No, I can drive this thing without a center console. I could drive this thing without carpeting. I could drive it with ratty old seats. I mean, it'd be uncomfortable, but they're the items that don't need to be done for your project to function. And that goes for most of your bodywork items too. I mean, unless it's structural, then of course you want to get that taken care of. But, your level 3 bodywork, I had a rust hole in the fender that I repaired. Was it necessary? No, I just got tired of looking at it. Same with the rocker. I replaced the rocker because I had a big old dent in it. Did it need to get done? No. Those layer 3 items are really the things that get done when you're waiting on money or parts to complete the layer 1 or layer 2 items. So today I'm going to point out some of the layer 2 items that I've been working on. So the first level 2 item basically that I did was I replaced my battery cables. Was it necessary? No. The old ones were just crusty and stiff and just didn't look good. So I ended up picking up some of this 1/0 welding wire. I got some quick disconnects for the battery lugs, and then I just ran some new wire, crimped on some lugs, put some P-clamps on the fender to keep everything dressed in nice, and that was done. In the process, I found that the mounting bolt from the engine mount just didn't provide a good enough ground to the frame and thereby the body. I found that my dome light wouldn't turn on or was very dim, and my fuel pump wouldn't kick on. So what I ended up doing, you can see here, I ran a secondary ground from the body mount bolt to the frame, and I just drilled and tapped a hole in the frame, ran a new cable. Now I have a good ground connecting the battery to the engine to the frame. So while that was, yes, I guess a level 2 item, it was really important because I found my ground just wasn't sufficient. Another thing I've been working on is getting accessories mounted. I found that I had to order a new alternator bracket, a new upper bracket. When I got this truck, it had an AC compressor right here, and I think that mount was tied into the alternator mount. I pulled that off, well over a year ago, misplaced some items, went to mount the alternator, and found that I didn't have the right upper bracket. So I got that in, so I got my alternator mounted. I was also working on the power steering pump, and that took a lot longer than what it should have, because even though I did take pictures, those pictures were, again, well over a year old, and just trying to get everything mounted correctly and lined up it took a lot longer than what it should have. But I got that in. It's just loosely mounted because I couldn't run the belt for that since it goes in front of the alternator belt. So I got to mount the fan, and I'm not going to mount the fan until I get the radiator in. What else? Oh, I was doing electrical cleanup. I ran my final fuel line from the regulator to the carburetor. Some vacuum lines, for PCV valve, power brakes, things like that. Again, layer 2 items that just don't really get touched on. I still have to do some more electrical. When I installed my oil cooler and my transmission, when I installed my oil thermostat and my transmission thermostat down there, when I connected the wire for the thermostat, let me see if I can show the way that I did that there. I couldn't find connectors. So you can see I just kind of looped the wire on there for now and held it in place. It would probably work just fine, but I finally got the connectors, so I'm gonna be replacing those. And I think it's time that the radiator can go in, because once the radiator's in, then I can mount the pulley and the fan and tighten down the power steering pump. All right, so I got the connectors replaced on both the oil thermostat and the transmission fluid thermostat. So now I no longer have wire just wrapped around the terminal lug. Got the radiator in. Of course, I changed the location mounting height of the radiator a little bit. So that when I did that when I built the radiator cover. So of course that changed the way the shroud mounted. So I fought with that a little bit and that caused some clearance issues, but I got all that dealt with. Once that was done, I got the hoses installed and I filled the radiator up to the point that it started leaking. About halfway up the radiator, there's a pinhole. So I'm probably just gonna go source a new radiator. I really don't want to add any leak stop stuff. I mean, it's basically a brand new engine. I don't want any of that stuff in there if I don't need it. So I'll go see what a radiator will cost me. But hopefully today I should have my torque converter in for the 904. If you watch my last video, you'll know what happened there. I ordered the wrong torque converter. So that should be in today. So hopefully I'll be able to get the transmission in today, tomorrow, whenever. What else? I think that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll catch you on the next one.